So moving on to the D-line. Actually, someone who stood out to me so far was Zach Kerr, 92. He has brought some thump to his drills. Have you seen that with Kosterek? Like, Kosterek likes him because he's hitting the dummies the hardest of any player other than Eric Armstead in camp so far. I love seeing what he's doing. When he does his technique, when he gets off the bar and they hike the bar, and you're supposed to put your hands up to get to stand the offensive lineman up, and then you're supposed to basically hammer fist, boom, to break down the blocking hands. He's hitting it hard. Yeah. Like twice as hard as anyone else.
And I thought Street was hitting it hard too. I filmed it 9 minutes of it yesterday. Street's good too.
Yeah. I love Contavious. He is such a strong man too. He's a man-sized man. I love that guy.
Yeah. He's huge and he's explosive.
Oh, his squats are good too. He doesn't ego lift. He lifts.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a great player. I've been waiting for Street to get. We talked about him, I think, last time. I have been waiting for him to get healthy forever. It seems. Maybe this is his year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And get some consistency from him. He's a beast.
You just mentioned 2 defensive tackles who have stood out. I got another one that I always have liked. He's a little bit smaller, but Kevin Givens. He has counter moves. When you watch him in the one-on-ones, he'll try something, maybe a rip or whatever. And if you block him, boom, he's got the spin or he's got something else. And that's not everyone has that. Javon Kinlaw hasn't developed that yet. He's hard. You can't block him. He always gets free eventually. Good player.
I don't think Givens should be a rotational piece sometimes. I think on any other team, he's a straight-up starter. He is high motor. He's undersized, they say. He's Penn State, as I recall, correct?
That's right. So
I get to watch a little bit of him because, I live near Pennsylvania. So Penn State, Maryland, these are some big games that I get to watch all the time. But I was really happy that Givens, when he's healthy, when he's on the field, the fact the 49ers took him. Because I remember his preseason a few years ago, he was the standout player from that on the D-line. He was all over the field. And he's a guy, we have a good D-line, and they're putting Kinlaw. I like Javon Kinlaw, but they're putting him in there because he's a first-round draft pick. This is called draft pedigree. That's what's keeping him on the field over someone like Givens. Because I think Givens and Street right now give you the best chance to get to the quarterback, but they do more things than that. They fill the running gaps, they get after the quarterback, and they push the pockets. And Kevin Givens has the ability to explode around the edge and use multiple techniques to get through the offensive lineman. He's a polished player, and he's extremely high motor, and he knows he's undersized, and he plays like it. I love it.
And we haven't even mentioned DJ Jones, who's having a hell of a camp.
Anytime DJ Jones is healthy, he's good, plain and simple.
That's true. Yep, absolutely. So their defensive
tackle.
Yes. Tony says, what are your thoughts on Kinlaw and Bosa's knees?
Great question, Tony. I actually do have some notes on that. So right here, the first thing let's go over Bosa. I've seen some pictures, and I've been watching his muscle tension, the angles that his knees and his Achilles are able to flex to. He looks very flexible. And when he's not being physically resisted, his motions are really good. He's getting around the edge with extreme bend. So it looks really good so far. Do you see the same, Grant?
When he's out there, yes. But I just haven't seen, he looks very trim and in shape, and he looks like himself, but they just haven't let him really do anything other than, go against sleds and bags and stuff like that.
I think this goes back to things we were saying before when it comes to Bosa. This is almost like when you have a player like Navarro Bowman, and you give him that Veterans Day off. I think there comes a point where a veteran player needs only so many snaps to get ready for game time. And I think when it comes to Bosa, they would prefer to risk his injury as pertains to a game versus pertains to practice.
Which makes sense. And they look at him as a veteran, even though he really only played 1 year, just because his, technique is so advanced.
Yeah, and he's so good that it's like, I think they weigh the risk versus what the game could be. And they're like, this guy, as long as he's working out, as long as he's running around the field, he's in the weight room, he's not going to lose too many steps before the game time. I think the regular season, I think after the second game, as long as he's healthy, I think you'll see him. I think he'll be fine.
The only thing with that, the reason I'm concerned is they give him these days off, which is fine. I mean, it may be part of the schedule, but he's not really doing that much in practice. He's warming up, he's working on his pass rush techniques, but he's not straining. He's not going against another human being in any form. And then he's still needing a day off because he's still feeling a little soreness. So my question is, how close is he really to being the full Bosa? That's my question. Are they just holding him back because they're making it seem like, we're just being cautious. You can't trust what they say. How close is he really? In September, is he going to be practicing every day and being his normal self? That's my question, and they won't tell you. We'll find out.
I don't see how it's possible for him to practice every day in September because 30 days removed from go time, essentially. I don't see how he's going to be ready for that if his knee is sore now.
Right. So that
I
means
would actually, if he's at the tail end of his soreness, I would have to say that he's probably looking at 2 months, maybe even 3, to be on the safe side before he's full go. Well, that's if he's recovered now, he's reconditioned, and now he's getting back to where basically all his little muscles are getting back to where they used to be, and his flexibility is regaining its form. I would have to say maybe 2 months would be liberal, I would say.
Wow. So I guess adjust your expectations of when Nick Bosa is going to play, how much he's going to play early in the season, how many sacks he's going to have this year. Maybe it's unrealistic to expect him to be playing 75% of the snaps starting week 1. Maybe they'll have to work him in slower.
If it was up to me, I would play him for less than 50. I really would. I would gauge the game. And if this is a game where guys like Givens, if D Ford is looking good, or even if some of the other guys, if Ebukam is looking well, if you're winning the game without Bosa, then just get him the bare minimum of snaps just so he can get some game speed back. Simple as that.
Chrissy says, but Grant, you're critical of the injuries. They are managing them. Yeah, I think the Niners are doing the right thing with Nick Bosa. I just am saying I didn't realize that Bosa needed this much maintenance. Like, he needs more maintenance than D Ford. That's surprising to me. And I just quite wonder, when is he going to be fully back? And I think what we're learning is not as soon as you might have thought, or as I might have thought. But it doesn't mean he won't make it, because he's done it before. So we'll see.
Well, here's the thing. If you put him in game 1 and you strain his knee again or something like that, and then he's out for 6 to 10 weeks,
it's bad.
Half the season is gone. If he has another serious injury like this one, his career is going to be not the same. I mean, he's had 3 big ones. They have to be careful. He's pretty much at the edge. This is one of those things where even if they felt 90% sure he could play game 1 at 75% snaps, they're still not going to do it. They're still going to take their time because he is a massive investment, a huge asset. They want to re-sign this guy, most likely, or at least be able to trade his value away for more picks. Right. They cannot afford to just say, you know what, let's try it. That's not the way the San Francisco 49ers work. I think if it was a smaller team, perhaps they didn't have as much to risk or lose this year, they might just let him play. But when it comes to the 49ers, they can't afford to have him out for another year or 2.
Okay. All right. So we'll see what happens with Bosa. Are you encouraged by the news about D Ford, or do you feel like the real test will be when he plays some actual football, see how his back holds up?
So during drills, when they're supposed to go around the target and then strip them from behind, he comes to a dead stop, turns around, and re-engages. Every other player wagon wheels around it with explosion. He can't do that yet. So they are being careful with him. I'm sure he's had a few explosive plays, but as far as tape I saw, he actually almost comes to a dead stop by comparison to the other players. So I feel like he's very ginger in his pivots.
Yikes.
Now, that might be maintenance, as they call it, and I'm all for that. I think D Ford is another guy, just like in times past, he doesn't need that much practice to be good. He's one of the quickest people off the ball when it snaps. So you're not losing too much by not having him full go all the time, I feel. Yeah. So I think the D Ford is being very carefully governed, just like Bosa, maybe even more so than Bosa. But he is very ginger when he pivots. However, he has beaten the right tackle.
Yeah. So
everyone else?
I'm sorry. It's not his fault. I keep trying to. It's not his fault that he's not great in pass protection. That was the book on him coming out of college. The Niners were the ones that decided to make him a top 10 pick. Just like it's not Solomon Thomas's fault that he wasn't worth the number 3 pick. It's nothing personal against Mike McGlinchey. It's just that's his weakness, pass protection.
He's 26 pounds.
That's why they didn't move him to left tackle.
Yes, that's good. But he's 26 pounds heavier, correct?
Yep.
So they're basically, I guess he's hoping that it was muscle. But also just to have a little bit of resistance, maybe just being a roadblock during the pass rush, not get knocked backwards so easily.
Right. He's still vulnerable around the edge, but at least he won't get knocked on his back once a game like he did last year. Well, I haven't seen him get knocked down yet.
That's good. Absolutely. Yes. And he goes up against some pretty good people. And honestly, I want to see D Ford beating him because, I mean,
he should.
Even if McGlinchey pans out well in the future, and I have all the hope in the world for McGlinchey. I think he has a great heart. I think he has a good brain. Yes, he's not next to Nelson anymore. I think that's one of the biggest things. He doesn't have this elite running mate, I guess you could say, anymore immediately, to his left. He's got Trent Williams on the other side, but that's Trent Williams' side. That's not really going to affect too much of what goes on his side, except the matchups that he gets.
He had a Hall of Famer next to him in college at Notre Dame.
Exactly. And also they were really good friends. I know they did a lot of practicing together, spent a lot of time together. Maybe Alex Mack, hopefully his veteran presence can replace at least the spiritual side of what Nelson gave to
Maybe
McGlinchey.
that's why they drafted Aaron Banks, another Notre Dame guy.
That college is pretty well known for the pedigree when it comes to the O-line. So, yeah.
So he and McGlinchey will be speaking the same language. They come from the same factory of football.
Exactly.
Jason says, I'm a huge Niner fan. And I want to thank you for all the info and you share with us. Lance needs to start week 1. Yeah, I'll let him know you said that, Jason. Thank you. I appreciate it. Last guy is Samson Ebukam. He was having a really good camp, missed a couple of days with soreness, and they just say, we're just being smart. We're just being smart. You never know what they mean or what's going on. Let's just say that they're just being smart. It's nothing big. Have you seen anything from Samson? What do you think?
Yeah, so earlier in camp, some of the earlier videos that I saw, he did look very good off the line, and I think he looks like more than a rotational piece sometimes. If D Ford is not healthy, I think he's your clear-cut guy. Do you agree with that?
Yes, no question.
If D Ford is healthy, what a great rotation between the two.
Yes.
D Ford is a guy that I would also like to see at less than 50% snaps. Unless we just feel so good about him, but against, say, the Lions or something like that, let's see how that game goes. But if guys like Ebukam are tearing this up, there's no reason to risk Bosa and D Ford. There's no reason whatsoever. And we have guys like Kevin Givens, even Javon Kinlaw, I think should get some good work in that game. I'm sure he will. Yeah. So yeah, I think Ebukam is a really good pickup. I know a lot of people were high on him. So am I. I think on many teams, I think he's a starter. I think you could be in a worse position than having an injured D Ford with an Ebukam to back him up. I think it's the best secondary player. When I say secondary to D Ford, backup player that you could find on the market without breaking the bank.
3 more guys I want to mention real quick who have stood out. The 2 guys they got from the Raiders, Arden Key and Maurice Hurst. Arden Key is very tall with long arms, and he's getting in the backfield. I liked him coming out of college. He was a total bust with the Raiders. Now he's got Chris Kosarick, who specializes in getting stuff out of underperforming players like Deion Jordan or this guy. So Key looks good. The other one, Maurice Hurst, looks good, making plays in the backfield in 11 on 11. Last guy that we shouldn't forget about, Jordan Willis. He's suspended for PEDs for the first 6 games. Still a good player, still practicing with the team. When he comes back midseason, that'll be a nice little reinforcement they'll get.
I have no concerns with the D-line, to be honest with you. There's so much depth there. You said with Kosarick. Actually, in Arden Key's, to bring him up, actually, the long arms, the height, the backfield disruption. This is not a guy I need sacks from. It's a guy I need tipped passes from. Things like that. Pushing the pocket, I think he just basically blocking the field of vision. This will be very important against one team in particular, and that's the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is, like me, short. So because of that, that's where Arden Key, I think, might have some really good games. So I can't wait to see if they rotate him in, how many snaps he gets against Kyler Murray, because Arden Key has a decent motor too. I remember he can move a little bit.
Yes, I like him. He really looks like he's got a lot of potential.
And he's fit. I like he's a very fit guy as well. He's built the way I want to see a football player built.
And he's the one edge rusher on the Niners that really has long arms. That Trent Baalke, he looks like Alden Smith. He's not Alden Smith, but he's got that build. Nick Bosa doesn't have it. Samson Ebukam, D Ford, they're all different. I'm used to those kind of guys. It's what Trent Baalke always wanted, and it's useful when you get past the offensive lineman, finishing the play, wrapping up the quarterback. Something that Nick Bosa doesn't always do. Arden Key. Let's see. So that's
absolutely.
A good line.
And his pursuit as well. I've seen him bring down running backs from behind. I've actually seen him with the Raiders. I've seen him drop into coverage before as well.
So he's a good athlete. He's definitely a good athlete.
He's a real football player, definitely. I think you're right. I think Kosarick redeems his career. And I think we lose him long term. I think he revives his career here and he moves on. He signs a contract somewhere else.
That's what Chris Kosarick does. He gives these guys a makeover, It's like bar rescue. Let me fix you up a little bit and I'll get you some money and you'll get out of here. I'll do it with the next crew next year. That's what I do.
Yeah, and I think Kosarick is a future. I mean, I don't know what he wants out of life, but I think he could be a defensive coordinator eventually. I don't know if he has the mentality, but he has the trajectory.
He's a great teacher. He's a great teacher. I don't know if he's a big picture guy because he's great with the details of defense.
I don't think he is so much, but that's why I say I don't know if he has the trajectory, but he definitely has the ability, I think.
He's got to be the best defensive line teacher in the league. Oh, Tom Sula was really good at it too. He reminds me a lot.
I like Tom Sula.
He reminds me a lot of Jim Tom Sula.
Yeah, the kind of hands on the pads, yelling at the guys. Kosterick
Yes.
is probably the loudest person I've heard on a
Tom
football
Sula
field.
yelled the same way.
He did?
They just taught different techniques. Tom Sula was more teaching 3-4 principles. This guy's teaching the wide 9 stuff, but really the way they communicate and teach is very similar and very effective. Yeah.
See, I like Kosterick's physical size too. Like he's out there, and if you're a D lineman, you can look at this guy. He's huge. I mean, even when they're in pads, he still looks like he's the same size. There's something to be said for a guy like that teaching that kind of job. I like that.